Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Retired Living True series. And today's topic, the truth about staying independent. I'm Brett Janelle, along with my wife and partner, Annette Janelle, and we're your hosts today. Can I just ask my panelists, are they able to hear me okay? Yep, perfect. I see, Vic, you're on using, I think, Ryan's login. So Vic, you might need to jump off and just register as an attendee because you're appearing for everybody as a panelist. Unless you'd like to join us as a panelist, which is fine too. So Vic, if you just go back to the website and just sign up as an attendee, you'll be able to get on. And I'm just buying some time while everybody's getting onto the call at the moment. So again, for those who are just joining us again now, welcome to the call. I have three panelists with me today who will be helping us with this topic. And Annette, did you want to just make mention about how this topic came about, why we're talking about the truth about staying independent?
Absolutely. You know, as real estate agents and owning a basically a move management company, we come across many people that they're entertaining making a move, but they really want to maintain their independence and either looking at staying in their place and how they can figure out to make it more compatible for themselves, or moving to a different space that allows them to still maintain their independence.
Wonderful. And for those who have just joined us, who have just got on the call, just a little bit of housekeeping. So the way this will work is Annette and I are going to ask our panelists some questions on your behalf, and we'll spend about the first 50 minutes doing that. And then for the remaining 20 to 30 minutes of this webinar, we will open it up to your questions, and we'll explain how to do that at the time. For those who are familiar with using Zoom and for those who aren't, if you're on a mobile device, an iPad, a computer, or a phone, down the very bottom, you should have a button that says Q&A, question and answer. So you're more than welcome to type in questions as we go along. So as Diane, Barbara, and Ryan speak in a moment, I'll introduce them. If you have specific questions for them that we can cover as we go along, feel free to type those in. And then when we open it up to question and answer, we'll actually show you how you can go about putting your hand up, raising your hand, and actually speaking verbally with us in terms of what your questions might be, as well as typing them in. So let's just jump in. Let me start by introducing our panelists. If I can get the computer to work here. And actually, just a quick word before I do introduce the panelists, I do want to really reach out and thank all of our sponsors. I can see we have a number of our sponsors also on the call with us today. And without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to continue to do these webinars in terms of them helping us in terms of speakers, being speakers, financially to pay for the technology that we need to put in place to do these webinars. So we really appreciate all the sponsors that you can see on the screen, and we just can't wait to see them all in person when we get back to our regular venue and get to, I guess, bump elbows or whatever we need to do as we all stay safe.
Fist bump, right?
Fist bump, yeah, fist bump, that's it, yeah. So the three panelists I have with me today, Barbara Seiler from Revel Ranchera, Diane Ross from Continuum, and Ryan Hart from Amata Senior Care. And I'd just like to start by having them introduce themselves, starting with you, Barbara. If you can just tell us a little bit about your background, the company you represent, and why you're here on today's call.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Barbara Seiler. I'm a sales director with Revel Ranchera. We're a brand new independent apartment community here. And I have honestly been in hospitality for 35 years and senior living about 2.5 years ago with my company. But I'm 10th in a family of 11, and most of my family are qualified seniors. So I'm very passionate about living the best life that people can possibly live.
Thank you, Barbara. Diane.
Good morning, everyone. Diane Ross with the Continuum, and we are an intergenerational rehabilitation health and wellness program. Our products are, we're a certified rehabilitation agency. We offer physical, occupational, speech therapy. We have an adult day club where seniors or people with disabilities can go and have a great experience in the daytime. We have a fitness group for seniors who want to get one-on-one training and exercise program. And we have the Mod Squad, which is I guess it's where we go in and send in a therapist and do a home safety evaluation and then provide modifications, which goes along with the topic of independence today. And thanks for allowing me to be here.
Oh, our pleasure, Diane. So glad you're able to join us today. And Ryan.
Good morning, everyone. Ryan Hart here with Amada Senior Care. I'm the owner. We have been in business for a little over 3.5 years now. We provide non-medical senior care to those that want to stay home and independent. We would provide a caregiver in the home that is fully licensed, background checked, and insured and bonded. So that's what we do.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ryan. So our first question to each of you, and we'll start with you, Barbara, is just in your professional role helping people, what does staying independent mean to both you individually and then also to your clients? And any examples you might have of clients would be great too.
So as I said earlier, I'm from a large family that has a lot of people in the baby boomer generation, of which I'm a part of also. And I've asked not only my family members, but also a lot of our residents here in our community what staying independent means to them. And honestly, it's very different for every single person. And I think right now, all of us are being challenged because none of us feel that we're very independent at this particular time because we're kind of isolating ourselves. So it's a very interesting question to hear what people are looking for. But I will tell you that I think independence can mean so many things to so many different people. And that is the challenge in today's world, is to listen to people and try to help them live what they believe is their most independent, free, and engaged life. So that's the challenge that we're currently at here with our residents that are not feeling very independent right now. But independence is such a great word, but it's very, very different for every one of us.
Thank you, Barbara. And Diane, what does staying independent mean to you and your clients? And any examples? I know when we spoke there a week or so ago, you gave some great examples about how that's different for some of your clients.
Absolutely. Well, for me, generally, it's having the ability to do what makes me feel fulfilled. And that means I want to have good physical health. I want my mind, my cognition to be as sharp as it can be, and financially is a concern as well. So all those things are how I see quality independence. And yes, you're right, Brett, that so many of our clients, independence is very different for everyone. And that's where we look at client-centered intervention, because everybody's different, like Barbara was saying. So we may have a person who's in physical therapy, and that person sees independence as being able to go out back on the golf course. For a person who's had a stroke, maybe it's somebody, grandma, who wants to be able to speak and be able to read stories to her grandchildren. Or maybe somebody who's a gourmet cook and needs some assistive devices to get into her kitchen, or him, to do some cooking. So each person is different, and identifying those needs are critically important for us to move forward to help them achieve that independence.
Wonderful, thank you. And I can definitely relate, or I know people can relate to the golf course at the moment. A lot of people would like to have their independence back out on the golf course for sure. Yeah. So Ryan, what does it mean to you to stay independent, both yourself and then to your clients, and any examples you might have?
Yeah, I agree with both of my fellow panelists with all of that stuff. You know, it's really where do you want to be independent? Is it in the home? Is it needing that physical therapy on a daily basis to stay independent, or is it better for them to move into a community? So staying independent is where you can be safe and happy and fulfilled, and not isolated, which is what's great about the community living, is that there's a lot of socialization going on, not now, but typically. So it's all about where do they want to stay independent, and how do we achieve that by providing extra help, extra care, or maybe just some socialization to, going on a day trip to the Continuum or something like that.
Wonderful. That's what really today's webinars are all about, knowing what resources and tools and skills and so forth are available here in the community for us to stay independent, whatever that might mean to us. Yeah, so wonderful.
You know, I'm curious, what is the number one issue that you see that people struggle with in relation to being independent, and how do they overcome it? Can you answer that, Ryan?
Typically it's finances. You know, they can't afford to go to assisted living, and they can't afford to, you know, have us there. So that's the number one thing I see, that people can't stay independent safely. The second one is usually pride. They don't think that they need it. And so they wait too long, and something, you know, catastrophic happens. And then all of a sudden, now they're really chasing their tail, trying to figure out how to stay independent without moving somewhere that they don't really want to move in the first place. I mean, nobody really says, I want to go to a nursing home, right? So if you wait till it's too late, you know, that's what I tell people is, you know, if you think you need help, you probably do. So let's figure out how we can do that and what the best route is, whether that's in-home care, whether that's moving to a community, or if it's going to somewhere like the Continuum, you know, on a daily basis to help you stay independent, to keep you strong and healthy.
Great, thank you, Brian. And actually that brings up Diane, the Continuum. What is the number one struggle that you see as far as people being independent, and how do they overcome that struggle? What do you see at the Continuum?
I think it's fear. I think it's fear of not being able to remain in their dwelling, the fear of maybe having to go to a nursing home, the fear of falling. So many of those fears. And to me, the important part of that is to identify those fears and then work backwards, so that if your fear of falling, then what's causing that? Is it your physical abilities? Is it your stairs are too steep? Is it that we need to modify the home? Or is it that there are other alternatives to becoming independent? Maybe it's moving to another facility, or maybe it's getting some in-home care on a regular basis, so that you can do what it is you want to do to remain in your home. So to me, a lot of the solutions are the resources in the community.
You know, it's interesting that you brought up fear, because previously you said fear, brought it up, and it was in the context of fear actually stops you from getting exercise, fear of falling. Mm-hmm. So then you stop doing those things that you enjoy doing, or that create that independence.
Absolutely. You know, with this, the situation that we're in right now, we had to close our adult daycare program. And what we're doing is we are Zooming. So our director now is going into the homes of these individuals. And we did our first last week, and we had 10 people on the Zooming. Some of our clients were all Zooming with us. But what we noticed was a decline in physical ability. And, you know, we're human beings that need to be together. And I think the social piece of it is so important. And in our adult day program, Regenerations, everybody exercises. There's no getting out of it. But it's chair exercises, but everybody does it together, and it's a fun thing. And you know how we all feel, exercise is no fun, especially if you're by yourself. So this is something that I'm very concerned about, and I think we all need to be concerned about, because we're going to be seeing a decline in people's abilities to function.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. Appreciate that.
So I'm just curious, what suggestions would you have for people to overcome fears that they may have? Because Ryan touched on that as well, the fear of reaching out for help. So, and Annette touched on us giving up things out of fear. So any thoughts?
I think, again, it's identifying the fear and then overcoming it. My feeling has always been, you know, fear is in the future. If you think about it, that's what that is. And so planning ahead really is a good thing. For example, let's say as we age and our bodies do change, we know that. Let's say our vision begins to decline. So we know maybe eventually we're not going to be able to drive. So then we plan for that. And we find strategies and people in the community that can help us with that. So I think, again, it's why is it the fear of falling? It's because, are you physically unable to do that? Is your dwelling not accessible to having you go in and out? Are there throw rugs in your house that could throw you? So the idea of getting somebody in there to take a look at what's causing that and then provide the solutions. And then, of course, having you buy into those solutions.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. What you say is just planning ahead. for those what ifs. So when that happens, or just having a plan in place can really help with overcoming fear.
So I guess the first fear to overcome is being willing to reach out to someone like yourself, Barbara, Ryan, or whoever in the community, whatever resource we might need to find out what is it that what are the answers to our questions. Just overcoming that, because I know as a society we kind of hesitate to reach out for help, as Ryan touched on.
Yeah. It's what you don't know. You know, if you don't know what you don't know, that becomes problematic. So being able to reach out to families and friends and to be able to listen to some advice is always helpful.
Yeah, you don't have to take the advice, do you? But at least getting another opinion.
That's independence.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, Barbara, same question to you. What issue do you see people struggle with in relation to staying independent? And what advice do you have as far as overcoming that struggle?
So I have to applaud both of my co-presenters here, is that financial is very big, as is fear. Those were two things that I was going to speak about. But I just had the opportunity to listen to a video this morning about a gentleman who we've had speak to us. He wrote a book called Live Long, Die Short, and he's part of the Masterpiece Living group. And it's just amazing because really he talks about the fact that most of us, one of the biggest things that we all do is we are routine oriented. We fall into the trap that we do the same things the same way every day. And we don't challenge ourselves to look at what it is that's going to expand, either that physical thing, that financial thing, that planning ahead, that new class, those new people. How do we make ourselves get out of what we all fall into, which is routine activities, and try new things and explore? And I have to say, people in this generation that we are all in and a part of and deal with every day, they've grown up in an era where we didn't have cell phones and computers and Siri and Alexa and Casper and all these different ways that we can get information. And I think that in today's world, there's a community of people who don't know that there's so many resources available to them. So as Diane said, we really need to get back to what is it? What's holding you back, or what's your fear? What's your struggle? And finances might be a big part of that, but it's how do we get people to look beyond? I mean, I loved it when he spoke here in Reno to our people locally. Dr. Landry said, you know, go home tonight and eat dinner with another hand and see how easy that is. Or go home tonight and brush your hair with your other hand and see how easy that is. And it's really simple things, but it makes you realize that we don't challenge ourselves on a daily basis. And I think that that's what I found living in this community, is that people's whole world opens up when they are around people that might not necessarily be exactly like them, but offer them opportunity to try new things and to open their minds and to challenge themselves, whether that be physically, mentally, socially, physically, spiritually, whatever that is. So it's a very hard thing, and some people don't even realize that they have that routine or fear. And when you give them opportunity to explore all of a sudden a light bulb goes on and you see it, right? It's like, oh, well, yeah, I haven't ever tried that. I didn't realize the rugs in my kitchen were tripping me, Diane. I didn't realize, you know. So it's really a challenge because it's individual to each person. But I think all of us inside, we all really want to grow and learn and develop and become more independent as we age. Oh, sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, that's a wonderful point, Barbara. That's one of the obstacles or challenges we overlook is the habits. We're creatures of habit, and we've created these habits over 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And yeah, being exposed to new things and keeping us stimulated. So yeah, that is a very great point you make.
I have to say one thing, the one point he brought out is we all have a couple of homes in our life, right? We have that first home, and then we have that dream home, and we work really hard to get into that dream home, and we get into that home and we raise our kids. And all of a sudden the kids are gone and we're there by ourselves. And why are we still in that home? We're there because it holds those memories or it holds those feelings and those emotions. But really, it's those emotions and those feelings are in us. It's not really in that home. It's a physical space. And then the space becomes too big and it becomes all consuming. And that's the routine. We're cleaning and we're cooking, or we're taking care of that physical plant when really we're not taking care of ourselves. And that's what I loved about that, is we forget to look at things that might be holding us down and we don't realize it. So sorry. Other 2 cents.
I love that you say that. I had a client that said that her possessions were possessing her versus her possessing them. Totally different perspective, how things change. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we see that all the time here. We have apartment living, and people have to go from 3,000-4,000 square feet, and now they're living in 800, 900, but it's very freeing. They suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I don't have to spend time on all those rooms and that yard or whatever it is. And I have time for myself to engage in activity.
So Barbara, what would you say 1 or 2 of the most important considerations in terms of ensuring our independence would be? So one, you mentioned breaking habits. Do you have like another one that really stands out to you?
Well, I think willingness, and I don't know how to do that, but willingness and desire to try new things, because really and truly, when you are talking to people, everyone has their reasons for why they're holding on to those routines and what is important to them. But if you can get to them and say, okay, aside from all of this, what drives you? Like, is it golf? Is it hiking? Is it cooking? Is it eating? Is it going, what is it? And then people open up, because honestly, we're protective. We don't want to think that we might be really isolating ourselves, or caught in fear or caught in routine. So it's that willingness, and you have to get to that on each individual level.
Thank you.
In a way to get to that person.
So same question to you, Ryan. What would you suggest are the most important considerations to ensuring ongoing independence as we get older?
Safety is first and foremost, in my opinion. Get to somewhere where you're going to be safe, or, that's sustainable too. So in other words, don't move twice. Try to only move once. When you're, probably in your 70s and thinking about getting into that downsizing or right sizing, as you guys call it, get to a place that's going to be able to sustain. Because if you have to move twice, a lot of times that's very, very difficult on older folks. And then, like I said before, if you think you need help, you probably do. And so just consider using your resources locally and figuring out what help is out there. I mean, we're all in this together, and we all help each other. I mean, even other competitive companies, if I can't handle the case, or if I can't staff it appropriately, I'm the first one to refer them to someone that can. And same thing with, if I think they need some daily help, physical therapy, occupational therapy, anything like that, then I'll recommend, that they go start by going to the continuum for a while. And then if they need to bring us in later, then bring us in later. If they need to move to assisted living later, but take some stepping stones to where you're not making this drastic change in your life and then getting somewhere where you're going to be super unhappy. Be a little forward thinking on it, and don't wait, because when you wait till something bad happens and you're forced to move, that's where you're really, really unhappy.
Can you just elaborate, Ryan, a little bit about the double move? What did you mean by that?
Well, so if you're getting on to a point where you think you might need, you can probably squeak by with independent living, but you might need assisted living later, then don't go to a place that only has independent living. Maybe go to a place that has the independent and assisted apartments in the same building, so that you're not physically having to move twice. If you think that, the home is where you're going to stay long-term, and you live in a 6,000 square foot home by yourself, then maybe think about right-sizing into a home where you can live the rest of your life happily and safely, and maybe bring in a little bit of help later. But moving twice is always very difficult for folks, especially when they're, have physical or mobility issues or anything like that. Obviously, don't move into a 3-story house if you have mobility issues. Just try to get into somewhere, you know, the communities are great. Even some of the 55 and over communities where it's a single level home, you know, they're already built in with walk-in showers and grab bars and all that stuff. So if you're going to move to the place where you're basically going to live the rest of your life. And in my opinion, that's always important.
And so just elaborate a little bit about where you've seen it being challenging for people. How has that shown up where they've ended up moving twice? They've moved, you know, in their 70s and again in their 80s or whatever the time span is. Why has that been a negative in your opinion, having worked with different clients? How does that show up?
The worst thing that I've seen is people trying to move to a place that only has independent living. And they think that they can do it, maybe have a little bit of care and stuff like that, but then they have to physically move buildings again. And moving, you know, someone's belongings and having to deal with storage and all that stuff is very, very hard on elderly people. And so, I mean, I don't have any recent examples of one that I've seen where that's happened, because we try to kind of mitigate that as best we can. And, you know, we'll help people move in some situations, but it's very tough on people moving, you know, to one building and then failing there and then having to move again because they failed. It's just kind of a lose-lose for everyone at that point.
Okay, makes sense. So I'd just like to flip to Barbara, because she is independent living. And I know you have great reasons to what you're saying, Ryan. It makes total sense. But we have lots of people who move to independent living and that is their last move. So what are your thoughts there, Barbara?
Now, I understand from Ryan's perspective what he's saying, but even in the years that I've worked in this community of independent living, I have to say that some of the people that quite possibly were starting to fail and they've moved into our communities and they started to improve their physical health and their mental health and everything, it's really changed the whole person. So I understand that there are people that probably aren't appropriate independent living and try to move into independent living. And we actually try to work with all of our partners in the community and explain to them, hey, we really don't think that you're appropriate for this community, because this community really is about active and engaged people. But I will share with you that, Ryan, that I think that there are a lot of couples and they may go into a building that's independent and assisted because one of them needs that special care. And it's very detrimental to the person who isn't at that level. And a lot of times we've had those people go into those communities and then come back to an independent living because they're craving to be in an environment where the people are still active and engaged. So they move and they know that it's not easy, but they still know that they want that style of living. So I think the most important thing in what you're saying is that we honestly make sure that we understand what level the people are at that are looking at our style of living. And for our purposes, we actually do have an assisted living memory care building being built right across a parking lot. And quite honestly, we'll help move them if they have to go there. And it isn't easy, but it's part of what our company believes is really important, is that the people that really truly are at a level that want to be independent and want to remain independent, but you know, they don't want to be in an environment where people might quite potentially bring them down. And do you know what I mean by that? That if you're in a building and you are very active and you're very mentally engaged, but you're with people who are much more needing physical assistance, it can actually kind of bring you down rather than challenge you and build you up to be more independent and more engaged. So I understand what you're saying from your perspective, Ryan, because I think you're trying to keep it easy and comfortable, but there's a lot of people out there who really want challenge and they don't even know it. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense to us. I hear both, and both are certainly valid. But it sounds like, Barbara, if someone came to you and maybe their health was failing and you could see in 3 or 4 years' time that maybe your community isn't the ideal for them, you'd suggest maybe you do want to look at other options so that they're not doing that double move. Would that be fair?
Very fair. And we really do try to get to know those individuals. And many of you know this, our building took a while to open. So we've seen some people that were very independent when they signed up for our community, and quite honestly, they became not. And they've had to leave us and go to other circumstances, and they're heartbroken as much as we are because we wanted to get them into this environment. And just to add a quick story, can I add my quick story in that? Or
yeah, most certainly.
Okay. So I was in Las Vegas and helped open up one of our communities, and we had a gentleman who lived in his home by himself for 12 years. His spouse died, and he came to our community with his arms folded in front of him, and his name was Jim. Jim did not like anything. He had a scowl on his face every day. He didn't want to do aerobics. He didn't want to go swimming. He didn't want to go to the social club. He didn't want to do art. And I only worked at that community for 2 months, but by the end of the 2 months, Jim was basically leading the aerobics classes. He was doing everything in the community, and he had a smile on his face, and his arms were no longer crossed. Jim did not realize that living by himself for 12 years, isolated in his own home, had created someone who really was resistant to change and resistant to opportunity and resistant to trying new things. And so there's so many people out there like that. And that's where I find passion in this work, is that we change the lives of some of those people. And Ryan, you're dealing with people who honestly, quite honestly, need a lot of help. They need care, they need, you know, and I understand that. There's all kinds of different levels of this. So I love what we do every day. I just feel like we see light bulbs going off all the time around here. It's really wonderful. So.
We can tell, Barbara, that you love what you do. And I'm just curious, is that a guy thing? I'm not moving, I'm staying here.
No, I've seen a lot of women do that here too.
Okay.
Oh, no way, you're never going to get me to do that. And it's like, oh, yes, we will. No, we don't say that, but we work with them.
Before I jump over to Diane, I'd just like to go back to Ryan, because Ryan, I know you help people in independent living communities. So there's times where you think it is a great fit, just like Barbara, and just with some help in the community and independent living would be a better environment, like Barbara is saying, than maybe looking at assisted living or everything under roof. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good option, because when we come in and help inside an independent living community, oftentimes that'll keep them there. And it can be a good financial decision too, because the cost of living, you know, going from independent to assisted can be really pretty escalated. So that can help people a lot too, stay in the community. And Barb, you know, I think that we see so many different situations that, you know, we just, every case is different. Every single person's different. Every situation's different. So I just, you know, we try to do whatever we feel the client's best wishes are. So if that's staying at home, then yeah, we'll provide care in their own home. If it's them moving to independent so they can have some socialization, have their meals cooked for them, all that stuff, then great, we'll go help them out there. We'll help them out there until they don't need us anymore even, and kind of transition them in, and we transition out. So, you know, we can do a lot of different things in a lot of different places. And sometimes that's the way that they're able to stay in independent living versus having to move to assisted, is by bringing us in to help them, you know, 4 hours a day or whatever it is that they need, just help with the shower, transportation, anything like that.
Great, thank you, Ryan. And I'll come back to you on that in a moment. I wanted to touch on transportation, but I'd love to jump over to you, Diane. What do you consider are the most important considerations for ensuring ongoing independence? What would your top couple be?
I think maybe attitude and gratitude. I think as we age, we do change. That's the way it is. And that's not necessarily bad, but we're all a little concerned about making changes because they're different, and we fear what we don't understand. But I also think it's important that we look at aging as a very positive thing. Yes, we do make changes, but you know, there's a lot of data that says as we age, there are parts of us that are more intelligent and better off than we were when we were younger. So
yes,
we need to keep that in mind. I think it's really important. And one of the things, and Barbara alluded to this too, we have to be physically healthy. And I think that is so important. And there's such great evidence of keeping healthy and doing exercise, making that body moving and grooving is critical. And so in our adult day program, like I said, everybody does exercise. I'm sure when Ryan has his caregivers that go in, he gets them moving, gets his clients moving up and out, because we do not want people to be dependent, and people don't want to be dependent, or most people don't want to be dependent. So I just think that's a real critical part of it. And then planning ahead, I think I've mentioned that before, it's really important as we age, and knowing that there are alternatives, we have choices. And I think that's really important. Now, the continuum's been around for 26 years, and 26 years ago, if you'd asked me about choices, weren't so many. But now, look at the opportunities that are available. And as we change and as we age, aging in place is critical, but what does that mean? And I think it means that for some, it's aging in place because that's their choice. For others, moving into a different environment is also a choice, and maybe a very positive one. One of the things that we haven't addressed that I think I just want to bring up is, 1 out of 4 people in the United States are caregivers. And we have to remember that caregivers are mostly the older population. They're caring for their spouses or their sibs, loved ones, and they need to be taken care of. Because if we don't take care of our caregivers, then our care partners are going to suffer as well. So those with that in mind, again, it's getting physically fit. It's keeping your mental abilities as keen as you can. And again, like Barbara was saying, there's lots of good evidence that talks about, there's something called brain plasticity, and they found that out a few years ago, which thrilled me, because we were taught that as you age, the brain sort of solidifies it. That's it. You don't get to learn anymore. But we found that's not true, that we can grow neurons and we can learn new things. And if we don't, it's like if you're doing the same thing over and over again, it's like a needle on a record, right? Just going round and round and making that groove deeper. But if we can make that brain work a little bit more and go into creative things, then we have a complete record. I guess that's the way of saying it.
Great. Well, thank you,
I just have to, can I say one thing? Because thank you, Diane.
Yeah, please, Barbara, sure.
So the bucket list, Walter Matthau and I can't remember the other guy.
Great movie.
Great movie, because they're both laying in a hospital on their deathbeds, and he puts together the bucket list, and they do these things, and both of them are teaching each other that they can go beyond these, what were restrictive to them. One, because he has a bunch of money and he gets to take him on all these tours. But I mean, honestly, ultimately, I don't think any of us really want to have somebody help us to do our daily activities. We really, truly, I mean, I think, and I'm only stating this from my own opinion, that most of us really want to go out like Thelma and Louise, over a cliff when we're done, or airplane jumping out on a, So the more that we pay attention to the physical health, Diane, but also the mental health, because that is a conjunction with it, because mental health is why we hold that fear of not trying physical health, right? So it's a mental and a physical attitude, as you said, of gratitude that we have life. How can we make it best that we can possibly make it?
So we need to exercise both our mind and our body. It's not one or the other, it's both.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, I would just wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit, but you wanted to ask Ryan about transportation?
Oh, no, I'll come back to that.
Okay, perfect. So if I'm independent and I want to continue being independent, but I'm noticing that I need more help, what are some things, Barbara, that your community would offer me so that I can continue being independent?
Thank you for asking me, because I'm really proud of what we do. We really, truly try to center on what all of our individual residents are looking for. And some of them don't know that until we sit down and talk to them and kind of just discern what they want. But we do exercise classes, and we do modified exercise classes where we do chair yoga versus yoga on the floor. And we do modified, what other people might consider boot camp. But this is a little bit less extensive than boot camp, but it's modified to each of the people's individual level in the class. We do a lot of classes that really focus on balance, because balance is something that a lot of people lose as they get older. And so we also have a sailing pool that we will be opening up soon, that we are going to do a lot of exercise classes in there, and water is so much easier on muscles and joints than doing it on a hard surface, and it's actually very therapeutic. So we do a lot of that. And then for the mind stimulation, we really talk to people. What interests you? Is it financials? Is it bridge? Is it cooking Taiwanese? Is it travel? And we try to engage our residents in classes that stimulate their minds to learn new things, to get open to new opportunities. And we do that through art classes, and we do that. I mean, there's so many opportunities. It's just exciting to me because we hold activities every day, and they bring up things. We did leather working a couple weeks ago, and people made a leather to carry their cell phones around their necks because none of them know where to put them when they're walking around. I mean, it's just, we do all kinds of different things. It's really, really engaging and fun.
That sounds awesome. So you've got ongoing activities every day, and it sounds like you really take input from the residents themselves of what interests them and try to engage those activities as well.
We do. And I have to tell you, recently we've been teaching them how to use Zoom and how to use FaceTime and how to use Google Places, because they are in their apartments a lot of the day, and helps them to engage with even their own family members and people that they can't go out and see because we're all trying to isolate ourselves. There's a ton of people walking. The beautiful weather is right outside my window here today, and thank goodness Reno's coming into summer really fast, but people are out and walking and getting that exercise and fresh air, which is so wonderful to do. So yeah, we're very fortunate.
Excellent. Thank you, Barbara. Now, Diane, same question. I'm independent, but I'm struggling. There's some things in my life that I need a little bit more help with. If I were to call the Continuum, what kind of services would you offer?
Well, I guess it depends again who you are. If you're a caregiver, we can offer you some respite care. So your loved one can come and hang out with us and have a heck of a great time during the day while you can go out and do your own thing, because you need to be independent. You need to have that relief, and that is so important. Also, to be able to open up, and if you have friends and neighbors who come to you to say, how can I help you? To be able to accept that help. And maybe even be more specific. I think that's really an important piece of it, because I think one of you, maybe Barbara, mentioned that it's hard for us to accept help sometimes. We tend, as older, to be wanting to be more independent, and we see this as maybe a crutch, which is unfortunate, because the people that I talk to, the caregivers, we do semi-annual surveys, and the letters I get back say that I would say 95% of them love what they do. They love caring for somebody, but they're very grateful that they have the time to do their own thing. Same way with Ryan's able to provide that respite care for somebody in the home, so that they can be, the caregiver can go out and do something on their own. So that's really important. I guess perhaps the most important thing would be to know the resources in the community. We have so many. There's so many available out here, not just based on income, but based on needs and variety, I think, too, which is really a blessing, because we all want to have choices to choose from things. So I think,
Diane, could you elaborate a little bit more, like on the Mod Squad, what that is? And
sure.
Yeah, what do you do?
What we do is we will send out a therapist, usually an occupational therapist or a physical therapist, and we will go into the home and do a home safety assessment. That means we look at the person themselves to find out what it is their needs are. What is it that's keeping them from being as independent as possible, or how can we make them more safe? We assess that abilities, and then we also look at the caregivers to see what their needs are as well, because we know that the more we can help the person with disabilities, then that helps the caregiver as well. And once we've done that, then we go ahead and make our recommendations to the family. They can decide what they would like to do in terms of modifications. If they choose so, we can go in and send a technician in to do grab bars, we can modify doorways, we can put in ramps, we can make recommendations for changes in furniture if we need be. We have something called walker steps for people who have difficulty and are using a walker to be able to get in and out of their dwelling safely. So we've been doing that for about 16 years now. And I will have to say, I don't think that we've done a especially great job in building homes to make them user-friendly for people of all ages. And that's unfortunate. I think Ryan was saying you're not going to move into a 3-story house if you're using a walker. It doesn't make any sense. But if you look at so many of the homes, they're not user-friendly for people of all abilities. And I would hope that people that are listening to this right now would recognize that and maybe push forward. My daughter has a home right now that has no steps. It's completely level. My home, not so much. I have 2 steps to get into the house. And you know, that doesn't seem like very much until you broke your leg, or until you're in a wheelchair, or you're using a walker. It's a huge barrier. So these are the kinds of things I think we need to be looking at in terms of modification of the homes or moving forward. I'm sure Barbara's facilities are all easily accessible, but I'm sure Ryan's encountered a lot of homes that not so much so.
Yeah.
So just on that, Diane, is that service only available for caregivers, or if I am someone who is concerned about my mobility within my home, can I reach out to you to get help? So I don't have anyone looking after me, but I'm home on my own. I'm having trouble maybe in and out of the shower, or it's now becoming a challenge, those 2 steps at the front door. Can I just reach out to your organization for help and advice?
Absolutely, Brett. In fact, we'd love that. Most people wait until they've broken something before we can step in, but oh yes. I'll give you a good example. I had surgery on my wrist in January, and all of a sudden I found it difficult to go to the bathroom. And so I had a grab bar put in, and I thought, now why didn't I do that before? You know, I mean, a grab bar is so easy. It's so simple. There's some pretty good looking ones around too. And everybody should have a grab bar in their shower. It just should be, that's just the way it should be. And we did put grab bars in our garage and our entryway because we had a friend who was in a wheelchair. And so we had to accommodate him, but I forgot about my bathroom. So thanks, Brett, for bringing that up. It's planning ahead is so important.
Yeah, well, thank you, Diane. And Ryan, switching gears, same to you. If I am struggling a bit and I want to maintain my independence, if I were to call your company up, Amada, what kind of services do you offer?
So we can do basically anything that a family member can do. I kind of want the rapport to be there with the caregiver client so that, you know, we are like family. We can help cook meals, we can help transportation, medication reminders, medication pickup. We can go to the grocery store for our clients, or we can take them with us to get them out of the house. Obviously now is not the best time, but typically, you know, during normal times, we do all of that stuff, and then kind of anything in between. So if you think about, you know, keeping on track with paying bills, keeping on track with, you know, emailing or whatever, we help people just do simple emails, because a lot of times they don't know what they're doing. So anything that really a family member can do that's, you know, non-medical, we're considered non-medical. We can really do anything. You know, we don't mow lawns, we don't scrub baseboards. We can help with light housekeeping, we can help with laundry and linens. But there's certain things we just can't do. We're not a maid service. So really we can do anything that a family member can do. A healthy family member, that is.
When you said transportation, what does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, so doctor's appointments are really important for people to stay on track with. And so we can come, you know, during our shift, take someone to their doctor's appointment, and we can even scribe for them so that we can report back, you know, to the family that may live far away on what the doctor's saying. Because a lot of times, you know, if there's some dementia going on or something like that, the folks can't remember what the doctor even told them to do. And medication reminders are really important, because when people get off track on their medications, I think that's still the #1 cause for death in the elderly is medication mismanagement. So, sometimes people just want to go for a drive up through Tahoe. We can certainly take them on that. We can take them anywhere they need to go, grocery store, bank, anything like that.
Great, thank you, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that answered it. I think that's great. And actually just companionship, right? If you just want somebody to be in the room
Sure.
with you and just.
Yeah, like Barb was saying, we can play cards, we can play bridge, we can play, a lot of older folks like to play cribbage, and sometimes they'll actually teach our caregivers how to play cribbage, so that when they come over, they can spend time playing with them. I mean, we have folks that have macular degeneration. They can't really read anymore, and the caregiver can just read to them for an hour or two every day. I mean, just anything to keep people stimulated is what we want. We can help them with their exercises if they're doing PT or OT, just to keep them on track with that, so that they're doing it on the days when, maybe they have home health and home health isn't there Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we can help them keep on track with their exercises on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So really not a whole lot we can't do, as long as it's not heavily medical.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
So while I have you, Ryan, in what circumstances is it a good idea to get other family members involved? We know we might need some help. When is it a good time to reach out to family members, whether it's adult children or friends or other family members? And then at the same time, when might this not be such a great idea? Any thoughts?
Yeah. So the problem is most older folks the pride kicks in, and they don't think, they don't want to call their son or daughter to tell them, hey, I think I might need some help. Or maybe there's some pretty healthy dementia going on, and they don't really know that they are struggling. So I think it's always a good idea to start with family first, trying to get, as long as you get along, of course, try to reach out to your son or daughter, and especially if they live locally, start there. Obviously, if there's a strained relationship going on, it's not a good idea, because then that's where the situations get really, really messy. So, I'd say if you have a good relationship with your son or daughter, start there, or even another family member, a niece, nephew, cousin, whatever. And then, if you don't have a good relationship, then, you can always reach out to any one of us in the community. And we basically solve problems for people all the time. Even if my service isn't the right one for you, I'm going to try to do my best to recommend the one that is the best for what I think folks need.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Same question. I'm jumping over to you, Diane. When is it a good time to involve family and when it may not, just from your perspective and clients you work with?
Well, here I go again. It's always nice to plan ahead. The more kids you have, maybe the better off you're going to be, at least at this time of your life. But I think it depends, just like Ryan said, there are some people who are meant to be helpful and caregivers, and there are others who are not. And I had mentioned that one of my friends was a sibling of 12, and her parents both required help, and so she stepped in, and she was the organizer. Actually, she put a Zoom thing together, and everybody had their own responsibilities, and it worked out really well. But I think that's unusual, and unfortunately there are a lot more people not having children or having just very few children. So the idea of being able to reach out not only to your family members, but to maybe friends or extended family. There's a lot of extended family people going around. Just because they weren't born in that family doesn't necessarily mean they can't be helpful. And I think the most important thing is the ability to ask the right questions and the ability to accept and receive help, and trust. Trust is very important. And if you trust the people that are helping you, then it's going to be a win-win situation.
Thank you, Diane. And then Barbara, if you can unmute yourself, what would you say to that in terms of when it is a good time to reach out to others for help, whether it's family or friends, and when perhaps is it not such a great time?
Well, I think in our world, and is particularly important right now, communication is king. And so many children think that they are communicating effectively when what they're doing is telling, listening. and not allowing the person who maybe is the end result person to tell what they want. So I think what Diane was saying and what Ryan is saying is that the most important thing is that the end user, the person who is needing to make a decision, is the one being listened to. So you need to find those family members that have that ability, and that extended family member who can honestly listen to what that person's saying and try to help them achieve their end result. If they get in the way of that communication because they're trying to answer questions for them, it's not working, because then they become less engaged and they throw up their arms and let that other person speak for them, which none of us want that. We all have a voice, but it takes that person and that patience to stop and, as Diane said, ask the right questions and then truly listen to the answers, because then you're going to get to what's the best situation for that person, right? So communication to me is number one. I have 10 siblings and I have to listen to them all the time. So I know about listening. So
great advice. We could all do better at listening, I'm sure. So yeah, great input. So we're curious, just one more question before we open it up to question and answers, is how is everything happening around us impacting each of you in your businesses and your clients? What has changed with the pandemic? Is it business as usual with everybody, or have things changed? I'll start while we have you, Barbara, and then I'll jump to Diane and Ryan.
Okay, so no, this is not business as usual. I'm now a mail deliverer and I do a lot of different activities that I never thought I would be doing in my professional career, but we send out newsletters every day to our residents. We give them, crossword puzzles and different games that they can play just to kind of occupy their minds. But we've changed the way we do everything in the community. We actually, about 3 weeks ago, stopped serving in our restaurants. So now we are a room service for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we are delivering food to all of our clients' apartments. And we're getting very creative. As I said earlier, I'm teaching so many people how to use Zoom. We do it for yoga classes and for different classes that we do here in the community. We're doing a lot of educational programs, but all of our public spaces are closed. But we're an independent community. So we can close our public spaces, but we can't tell our residents they can't get in their car and go to Trader Joe's, or they can't walk outside and go for a walk and go walking with their children or their dogs. So it really truly has changed the way that we do things, but it hasn't changed the way that we do things, because we're just modifying the way we do things so that people still feel that we are here for them. We want to engage their minds and their physical activity. And we're trying to teach people how much opportunity there is to actually, learn new things or challenge yourself or try new skills. And we've taught people how to grow herb gardens on their patios. And, we've done things like teaching them sanitizer from household stuff because, we weren't getting our sanitizer in and things like that. So we had residents here who made over 100 of the lovely that we have to wear when we go out in public. She made 100 and another one's daughter made them. So, it's a new way of life for all of us. And it's not fun, but it also is challenging us all to find ways to do things better, right? To listen to what they really need and what they want. Like right now, we have to-go order at the window at the restaurant so they can go up and take their food and sit outside because the weather's been so nice. So everyone's doing that. They love it. They can come down and they get to go to a window and get their food in a bag, and they go and sit outside and get to enjoy their food outside rather than sit in their apartment. So it's being flexible.
Yeah. Well, I think some people would be having fun, just the change and learning something new and the opportunity and being able to order at the window and eat outside. That might become something you have to keep.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely changed the way we do business. We're not doing tours. We've done virtual tours. So we're getting really good at doing videos of our community. And we've actually signed people up to move into our community off of video.
Oh, wonderful.
it's just very impressive to me. So I'm very excited that we're successful at that.
So if anyone listening today would like a tour, they can do a virtual tour with you?
They can, absolutely. And we will customize it to the apartment type that they want. And we show them everything. And it's really fun. We've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Excellent.
I like how creative that is.
Very creative, yeah.
So fun. Oh, and one other thing that we did, and I just want to, and our community of a company is doing this. We have gone out to people who are in their homes right now, and we've taken them little gift bags, like just with teas and honey and hand sanitizer and soap, because there's so many people out there in the world of our community of Reno here who are isolated. And we reached out to some people who reached out to us just to say, hey, we just want you to know we're thinking of you. You know, we just want you to know. And I have to tell you, for me, that was one of the most heartwarming things. Many of those people hadn't seen anybody in 3-4 weeks. And, you know, they stood out on their stoop with me and I had my mask on. But we talked for, 20-30 minutes just because they needed that socialization, that opportunity to have some touch. So all of you get on Zoom with your friends and family. That's my suggestion for the day. Okay, goodbye.
It's a good one. Reach out to somebody. So Diane, how have things changed for you and your clients?
Well, it's pretty upside down. Our child care center infant toddler program remained open because we were considered an essential business, and we were opening it up to first responders whose child care centers had closed. And that's been very interesting because of the regulations and rules. How do you separate 1-year-olds? It's been quite an experience. Our adult day program is now virtual, and our prayer is that this ends soon because we need to bring those people back into this environment. It's so important, not only for them, but also for the people that are caring for them. But again, it was very creative. My belief is that you can make lemons into lemonade. And so one of the things that we did, again, with this virtual stuff is some ideas on what we can do to continue with people who may be shut in on a permanent basis. We have 95% of our therapies now are being done by teletherapy, so that our physical, occupational, and speech therapists are now doing therapies by way of what we're doing right now. And that's been, it's been a very interesting experience. And I think people will, wait a minute, how can you do physical therapy by way of telehealth? It's very easy. And sometimes it's even better because we can be into the homes to say, you need to be walking around that, you need to be picking up your feet, wash those rugs. So that's been kind of interesting to do that as well. We still are seeing some clients here that are more involved, and that telehealth doesn't work for all, but we're empty. It's, the continuum's intergenerational, and we usually have people buzzing around all over the place, and I'm sitting here looking at our interesting lobby and there's nobody there. So it's lonely being here. I feel like I'm isolated in my office. So those are the changes that are going on. My hope is that maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to open back up again. But again, just like Barbara was saying, we've learned new things, and we'll carry those forward. I'm looking forward to it.
It's interesting, just the fact that you were saying about doing the telehealth and being able to be in the client's home visually like that. It may be something that you carry on even after this.
Absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't work for everybody, but for some people it works more, it's better. So, and then we did find that there were a lot of people, older people, who were fearful. They didn't really want anybody to come into their home. I don't know, Ryan, if you'd run into that, but their choice was to do it by way of telehealth. The bad news is that Medicare, in all their lack of wisdom, is not allowing telehealth for their older people. And that to me is really a problem, because Medicare said it's okay if they want to pay cash, but we won't pay for the intervention in the home with telehealth. That's craziness. So if some of you seniors are out there listening to this, get hold of your senators and let them know that this is wrong. It's just a heartbreaker. Medicaid pays for telehealth. Go figure.
Yeah. Definitely need to see some changes in the healthcare.
We sure do. And this has been an eye-opener for all of us, hasn't it?
Yes, it
Most
has.
certainly has.
For all ages, for all ages.
So Ryan, how about you? What changes have you seen because of COVID-19?
A lot. It's been very interesting. The biggest thing for us is we have a large staff, a large care staff. We have about 180 to 200 caregivers on staff.
Oh, wow.
And so keeping them all safe and, you know, PPE is really important for us. Because, you know, if someone is positive, that can really just run through our whole client and caregiver roster pretty quickly. They don't have a whole lot of contact with each other, so that's not the issue. It's more, you know, how do we take temperatures every day on everybody? How do we do a lot of these things that you know we wouldn't normally have to do? And we've just been figuring it out. You know, we haven't had any positive cases in either our client or caregiver census so far, so that's been pretty good. And then actually we were contracting with Senior Care Plus to try to help keep people from too many people from admitting unnecessarily. And so they've contracted with us to try to, you know, mitigate some of that unnecessary admissions. But the hospital census is so low right now that they're on a hiring freeze. There's all kinds of stuff that it's affecting, and the trickle down effect is starting to hit us a little bit here and there. And we do have people, especially in assisted and independent living communities, the people that we're taking care of there, they've just completely shut us out because they don't want, you know, they don't want it spreading around one of those communities. That would be disastrous. We also work in skilled nursing facilities sometimes, and they won't let us in at all right now, which totally understandable. So it's just changing the way that we do. You know, we're still having to hire 15 to 20 people a month on our care staff to keep up with the demand. And we're doing a lot of the interviewing virtually and a lot of phone interviews. When we take on new clients, we're doing a lot of that via email, which is kind of weird because typically we try to get one-on-one with the folks to see what their needs are. So we're dealing with a lot of powers of attorney and you know, doing a lot of stuff remotely. My entire admin staff is working remotely from home. So it's been interesting, but we're getting through it. And I think, you know, once we get back to the new normal, everything's going to be a whole lot better.
Whatever that is.
Thank you, Ryan, for sharing.
Yeah,
Whatever the new normal is, Diane, yes. Yeah, we're all going to have to work that out as we go along. So what we'd like to do now is open up to our audience's questions. If you guys would be open to taking some questions, I'm sure you would. And I see a number of people have typed some in. Just before we do that, what I'd just like to do is just mention some upcoming events that we have coming up. So let me just put that up on the screen, if I may.
And we've got several coming up in May, pretty much every Thursday.
And we're having fun dealing with new technology ourselves. And
I'm just trying to pull this up.
so hopefully everyone who is online can see the list of events. For those who are on the phone who have just dialed in, I see we have quite a number of people who have called in, the events that we have coming up. And actually, I'm going to put a poll up on the screen. So what I'm going to do for those who are online, if you'd like to register for one of these events that I'll go over in just a moment, you can do so, and we'll get you pre-registered for it and send you out a confirmation email with the details. So you should see on your screen now the upcoming seminars. But what we have is on May, sorry, let me go back one. For those who are on the phone, feel free just to give us a call, and the phone number is 775-432-6398 if any of the following events are of interest to you, and we'll get you registered. And then those who are online can just respond. Or if you would prefer, you can go to our website, janellegroup.com/events, and just register yourself. But on May 7th, which is a Thursday at 10 a.m., we're going to have a COVID-19 update from the University of Nevada, Reno, the Center for Aging, which is part of the School of Medicine. They've been actively involved with the state in terms of what's been put in place to deal with COVID-19 here. So we'll have a couple of people on that call that we have a series of questions for. And then on May 14th, We're going to talk about what Diana was referring to, about telehealth and telemedicine, what's available here in our community with Dr. Biondi, who's an MD with Prominence Health Plan. So she'll tell us what's happening in that space here. Obviously, there's lots of changes. And then on May 21st, we have Making Sense of Money During and After the Pandemic with Juliana Hart with Allstate Financial. So she'll give us an update in terms of what we can do with our money, where we should be putting it, should we be concerned, everything financial. So if that's of interest, please register for that. And then our regular monthly seminar will be on May 22nd, which is a Friday, not a Thursday. Everything's normally on a Thursday, but this will be on a Friday. And that's the truth about cannabis for seniors. And we're going to have a MD on the call. We're going to have a pharmacist and also a dispensary. And then hopefully also someone from the state to talk about the legal aspects of cannabis, what's legal here in the state, what's not, can we go over the border, and all those kind of questions. So I think that'll be a really informative seminar that we'll do. And then on May 28th, Kindred Hospice, we'll be interviewing them, talking about hospice and bereavement and several other things. So I can see quite a few people have signed up, and as I said, later today or tomorrow, we'll take those people who have indicated they'd like to attend, and we'll get you registered, and you'll get a confirmation email with how to access the calls. And if you aren't able to do that on your computer or you're dialed in, just give us a call or go to the website and we'll get you registered. So I'm just going to enter the poll so we can jump into the questions from our audience. So let me just...
Pulling up. So if you are dialing in from a phone, you can press *9 on your phone, and then we'll be able to basically have you ask your question. And if you are on your computer, you can either raise your hand, or as some of you have already done on the Q&A, you can type in your question.
Yeah, and to raise your hand, you'll see that there is a little icon down the bottom that says raise hand. By clicking on that, we'll indicate that you have a question to us, and then we'll unmute you, and then you can ask your question of the appropriate panelist. So let's just start with some of the questions that have been typed in, and then we'll come back to the people who've raised their hand. So one of the questions, and hopefully my panelists can see these questions on their screen, and I'm not sure if any of you can answer this, but what kind of assisted living facilities are available to those of us who do not have large sources of income?
Brett, I can answer partially.
Thanks, Ryan.
So what we usually do is try to find group homes. Those are a good inexpensive way for people to be in a place where they have 24/7 care and all that good stuff. That's usually where I start. As far as Medicaid funded long-term care living places, I don't know that much about that. I don't know if Diane or Barb, if you have any thoughts there.
Because for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, our assisted living communities are all private pay. So unless you have long-term care insurance,
long-term
VA
care
benefits.
Insurance, VA can help out if they were a veteran or if they're a surviving spouse of a veteran. But yeah, there's not a whole lot that pays for these types of things. Medicare doesn't, and unless you're in like a skilled nursing facility with long-term care unit attached to it, sometimes Medicare will pay for some of that stuff, but it's usually limited to a certain number of days or months. It's not long term.
But there
Thank
are,
you, Ryan. Go on, Diane.
Yeah, there are a range of assisted living, and I believe that was the question, right? It was about assisted living.
What kind of facilities are available for those who are more financially challenged?
Yeah. There are those that don't offer as many services, but they are less expensive. And of course, you can go all the way up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month. But there are those that are not as expensive. And I think that if you look at Nevada 211, or if you could give them a call, they would be able to help you. Just give them a call and say, I'm looking for assisted living in the Reno area or wherever you are, and this is my income, what's available.
Great, thank you, Diane.
Mm-hmm.
So a question specifically for you, Diane, that someone has asked is, who pays for the changes to someone's home? I assume we're referring to modifications. And do you help get financial assistance from the government agencies for any modifications that might be needed?
We do. We have had a contract with Aging and Disability Services, the state of Nevada, for like 12 years. And if you are 60 or older and you have some form of disability that puts you at risk for remaining in your home, we can send out the therapist and do the modifications at no cost to you. Just give us a call, the Continuum, and Colleen's our go-to gal here, and she can help you get through the paperwork.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diane. And for those who don't have the slide up on their screen, we have the contact details for each of our panelists. If you wanted to reach out to Diane at the Continuum, her phone number is 775-829-4700. And our next question.
We've got several that are just asking about pricing, starting with Ryan.
Yeah, so could each of you, perhaps one at a time, starting with you, Ryan, just explain briefly the pricing of your services, how that kind of works?
Yeah, this question from Ruth. So we do charge hourly, between $28 and $30 an hour, depending on how many hours a day we're there. And if we're handling long-term care insurance, sometimes you put a little premium on there because that's a lot of work on the back end with processing paperwork. The road trips, to answer your question, Ruth, yes, they are an additional cost if the caregiver drives their own car only. So a lot of clients still have their cars and they want us to be driving their car because they're more comfortable in that. And so if we're driving their car, then no, there's not an additional mileage cost. But if the caregiver is transporting the client in their own car, then yes, there's a mileage charge of 75 cents per mile put on to the invoice.
Thank you, Ryan. And Diane?
Our adult day program, it runs approximately about $70 a day or half a day. I think it's 42, 45. But I also want to tell you that we have many scholarships. The state of Nevada, ADSD, has scholarships for respite care, so that if anybody is interested in coming to take a look at us and they have some financial issues, we're happy to help. The Alzheimer's Association, we work closely with them. They have grant money. Seniors in Service have grant money, and we also do as well for respite care. Our physical, occupational, and speech therapy programs we have Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. So it would depend. I mean, you can pay privately, but most of 95% of our people go through the insurance program, and that would be a copay that if your insurance requires that, or your deductibles, that would be your responsibility.
Thank you, Diane.
Oh, yeah.
And Barbara.
I didn't mention too that if you want to get a home modification program, if you'd like to have a therapist come out and do a home safety assessment, it runs about $95.
So 95 for the assessment, and then you would work out what needs to be done and
Correct.
What that cost would be. Great. Thank you so much. And so Barbara, same question, just in terms of what the cost of your community is if someone was looking to move in.
Sure. So we have everything from studio apartments up to 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartments. So there's a wide range. And on the low end, we're talking $3,400 a month up to about $6,000 a month for our community. But I do want to stress that that includes all of your bills basically, except for phone. It includes once a week housekeeping, meals in our restaurants, all of our activities, transportation, all types of things that you normally would be paying for, repair and maintenance and housekeeping and cooking and cleaning. All of those are all inclusive in our pricing. So people have sticker shock when they first hear it, but honestly, we have a worksheet that I'm happy to send out to anybody who is interested, because we have you itemize what your costs are for those things in your own living space, and then you can compare what we include every month. So I have that available as well.
That's a great worksheet, Barbara, because you've shared that with me and with some clients who have gone through that process, and they've been surprised how close the two are once they get rid of all their ongoing expenses and everything's included.
Thank you. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, exercise worth doing. And so let's move to the next question. We've got that one.
The other one for Diane.
For Diane. So Diane, I heard telehealth will be at least partially paid by Medicare for doctor visits. I heard that at a coronavirus briefing several weeks ago. Maybe that is different from telehealth. Do you have any comments or additional information?
Yes, yes, telehealth was opened much more by CMS, by Medicare, for doctors and for extenders, not for PT, not for physical, occupational, or speech therapy. That's the unfortunate part.
Okay.
So some of it, yes, is covered, but for those who, I will give you an example. We probably have 20 of our clients that were receiving Medicare intervention that did not want to come out. They were in the process of getting therapy, but now they're homebound and they get nothing, which is really unfortunate, unless they pay cash, and that's, you know, that's expensive, so that's hard.
Right.
So
Most definitely
contact Medicare and tell them that we need to have teletherapy.
Thank you. So I noticed there were some hands that were up. People had raised their hands and they've gone down. So if you did have a question, feel free to put your hand up again, but I'm guessing one of the panelists answered that based on what someone else had asked. But again, if you're on the phone and you wish to ask a question, press *9. Or if you're using the Zoom application, click on the raise hand button. I'm just going to get rid of this slide. I think you guys have done such a fantastic job that you've answered everybody's questions.
Oh, I don't have anything. You know, I just wanted to mention one of the things that was brought up was about assisted living. And on our website, we actually have a list of all the communities: independent, assisted, memory care, nursing, community, skilled nursing. They are actually on our website. If you go to janellegroup.com under communities, and we actually have a map. So, and we color coded them so you can actually see what's closest to where you currently live. And it has all of their contact information there, so you can call them up and get the details about what they charge.
Yeah, perfect. So before we wrap it up, did you guys have any closing comments that you wanted to make in terms of advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, Diane.
I noticed that you're going to have the Sanford Center on Aging. We'll be doing a presentation on Nevada CAN, which I think is a wonderful thing. And that's something that I'm part of. And we kicked in this, actually, I think Sanford started it and partnered with Aging and Disability Services so that they are reaching out to the seniors who are isolated and have no means of help. And so they've really kicked in a fabulous program, so that if you know of somebody who is isolated, please reach out to Aging and Disability Services or the Sanford Center on Aging, and they will be happy to bring help to them. The other is, just wanted to mention that there has been a group of people in this area working on something called Age Friendly Nevada. And it was actually a program with AARP. And what they're looking at is, you know, what is it about our community that we can make it more age friendly? And I think that's a great thing. And if any of you have ideas, please contact me and I will put you in touch with the people that are working on this plan. And I think that what's important when I bring that up is one of the reasons I'm very active in AARP is what their philosophy is: what you do for one, you do for all. So if we modify park benches to or exercise equipment or whatever for an older person, it benefits everybody as well. So we're all in this together, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Yes, Barbara.
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you for letting me present today. And I also want to say that, you know, there are so many of us out there who are isolated right now. This is a whole new time for all of us. There are so many resources, and if you can't find them through one of the people on this screen today, I'd be very surprised, because all of us have access to a lot of resources. you know somebody, you want to help somebody, you have an idea for somebody planning in the future. That's why we're here. We all in this community that are working with our senior population, and I hate to call them seniors because I'm a part of that group and I don't consider myself a senior, but we all just need to be able to communicate what it is we're looking for and need. And we will try to send you virtual tours when we are open. We all want to help you. The Janelles will want you to come to their events, and these wonderful people that offer services to help you. We all are here for you. So use our phone numbers, use our emails. Please don't be afraid to reach out, because we're a part of this community and we want to be here for a long time helping all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Very well said.
Yeah, Barbara, I agree. Well said. Yeah, we're open and running. I mean, if we can be a resource at all to any of you guys, please don't hesitate to call. Anyone in my office can help. We've done a great job of being safe and keeping our staff safe and our clients safe. But yeah, anything we can do, like we said, we're all in this together.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And just to those audience, this is so weird doing it in this format. I can't wait till we get back to our physical venue and we can see everybody, and I get to eat the chocolates that are left over at the end and so forth. But if there's someone that you'd like to hear from, someone you'd like us to interview in the community that would bring value to our audience, please reach out to Annette or myself, and we'd be happy to reach out. We'd like to bring other people in front of you. And with that, I think we just want to wish everyone a wonderful day. Thank you for participating in the call. Thank you so much to our panelists. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Have a great day, everybody.
A fabulous Thursday. See you later.
Bye-bye.